All right, everybody. I've been wanting to make a quick video from my reaction, I guess you could say, to Formula Drift Long Beach because it was a little weird, right? There was a couple different calls that, you could say they're controversial. You could say that they didn't really go the way people wanted, or I didn't agree with, whatever. I know that we now have the Wally system, and yes, I qualified third. So you could say I really enjoyed the Wally system. I kind of read into it, studied it, watched the qualifying, saw what was being rewarded versus what was not. In the end, there was about 30 drivers that were livid. We had to have a last minute drivers meeting Friday night to basically calm the tempers of the majority of the field, if you will, on how the system works. We were told we were going to get the information. It took weeks to get the information. Long story short, there were teething issues, as we all knew that there would be. But in the end, I do agree that the Wally system is moving things in the right direction. However, there are still, judgments that have to be made. It's not 100% AI, it's not 100% computer based. And so there are still human judgments that are being implemented into not only qualifying, but also the tandem. So outside of qualifying, I'm not even going to touch on that because that is, like I said, being calculated. The Wally system is getting better. Where the back end of vehicles are is still to be determined. Some people are putting their bumper on the wall and not getting full points. Some people are going, a foot into the wall with their cars and still getting full points when that's supposed to be a deduction. Some people are a foot off the wall and getting full points, and or everywhere in between, right? And so the exact discrepancy on where the corners of the car are versus the Wally system, I think, as myself and other drivers have expressed, we would like to see someone like Kevin or another member of Formula Drift physically measuring the cars out and implementing these inputs into what the Wally sees. And so just like NASCAR, where they put the claw over the car and they check the overall dimensions of the car. Yes, we all submitted dimensions of our cars, but that doesn't exactly draw the corners. Just because I give you a length and a width and a wheelbase, it doesn't mean that shows you exactly where the right corner of my car is for when I'm putting it on the wall at Long Beach. And as we all know, there's a very fine line of being a foot off and a foot too far into the wall at Long Beach, right? And especially if some cars have the bumper that caves in, some that do not, just based on the availability of the chassis. Like for me, I can't have my car bury it in a foot because it's through the tire. And if it's through the tire, it's through the subframe. The whole thing goes haywire. So, and it's not just a complaint for my chassis. It's just across the board of the differences between a driver being precise and putting the corner of their car on the wall versus burying it in to get full points. So that's a whole nother conversation. But going into the tandem aspect of things, the biggest controversial call of the weekend, of course, was Conor Shanahan and Gushi, top 32. So I'm going to sit here, play it through, and kind of talk about what I see and where I feel there is a problem with how it was handled or the judgments or whatever. Seeing it live and watching it kind of unfold live, it was a very, very weird situation. Obviously, it was weird enough to get a rerun, which doesn't really ever happen in FD. So as we watch a run come through, Conor out front, perfect graze in outer zone 2, nice and solid on outer zone 3. Gushi is present, he's up on the judges wall, outer zone 4. Gushi's in the pocket, and as Conor goes to transition, the vehicle's there. And so when you do that, it's going to then disrupt the car and make it go a little back forward. And by the time you get back around, you're already shifted back to the left. And when you're trying to put these cars within a foot of a wall and you get shocked over 10 feet, you're now 10 feet into the wall, which is exactly what happened. So they take the 10 minutes, they get the not at fault 10 minutes to fix the car. They get the extra 5 because it's 5 minutes, couldn't fix the car. So they tell Gushi, hey, he didn't get his car fixed in time. And the problem with the rules is that this now inherently goes back to the idea that you can crash out a competitor in the first lap and then still move on. The entire point of the collisions and the at faults and everything else is that if you are not at fault and you can't fix your car in time, you should be granted the win, and then you cannot move on. So Conor should have been pushed into top 16, and then he did not move on from there. But FD judged it poorly, and they told Gushi, oh, go do your lead lap. Conor didn't make it in time. Gushi goes out, does his lead lap, and then becomes this weird Wally judging lead run versus lead run. They didn't tell Gushi his lead run was being judged by Wally. And in the past, all you ever had to do was present your car to the line, which takes us way back to the ESSA Luke Pacula scenario from 2013. That's a whole nother story. All you gotta do is present your car to the line, you get the win. Yes, it's 13 years later, but the idea that they're now judging Gushi's lead run versus Conor's, when one was a tandem, Conor didn't get to finish a lap, Gushi did, but his line wasn't as good because he wasn't told it was being judged. It was a whole mess. In the end, Gushi should not have been sent to the line. It should have went to Conor, and he moved on and gets parked at 16 because his car got crashed out. Like I said, this is inherently the issue of a crash out in the first run versus the second run of a tandem battle. And so then they, to right the wrong, just rerun them and scratch the entire run from the record and start over in top 16. They did the rerun. Conor had ample time to fix his car. They go back out on track. Conor gets the win. Conor gets 2 more laps in top 16 under new track conditions. He goes on to win the event. Very, very weird situation. Nothing against Conor. He's a great driver, but he was put into a strange situation that I feel was not handled appropriately. And obviously, people from his team were making complaints to the judges. Things ensued. They got the rerun. How many reruns have there ever been in FD? Count them on my hands. So you already know that that's where the wrong decision was made. So now I go into the next controversial run of the weekend, which is Ryan Tuerck and Branden Sorensen. And so this was an interesting one. And of course, I love my boy Ryan Tuerck. We go way, way back. He's an absolute incredible human being. There's nothing to do against him. Yet again, talking about the inconsistencies of judgment calls and where things lean one way versus the other, depending on what's happening on track. And so this is where I get back into, it's not about the Wally, it's not about the drivers, it's about the connection between runs, right? And what is being judged one direction for one person versus what's being judged another direction for another person. Ryan Tuerck's first run, goes out, great initiation, taps outer one, has that little bobble, right? Goes all the way out, slams into the judge's wall, straightens the car out, absolutely misses outer zone. Gosh, what is that? 5? Misses the outer touch and go on the right-hander, and then kind of wrangles it back up, finishes the course. Long story short, he smashes into the judge's wall, straightens the car out, Branden comes a little off kilter, Ryan comes back into drift, comes back around the corner, and finishes the runoff. But yes, Branden also went into the wall behind Ryan because his job is to follow the lead driver. And so as he goes into the wall and slams his car in and straightens out, that is due to chasing the lead driver. The lead driver made the mistake first. Branden Sorensen was present. He made the same mistake that the lead driver did because of mimicking the lead driver. And so to put any fault on Branden is ridiculous, right? Like, he is following the lead driver. If the lead driver bangs into the wall, he's going to bang into the wall. You know, this happened with me and LZ in the exact same spot last year. LZ barely skimmed it, probably caved the bumper in all the way to the tire, but me with the less overhang, I tapped it and the car straightened out. So we lost that run because of our car's lack of ability to stuff it into the barrier. Next run, Sorensen, he's leading. He probably feels like he has a great advantage. He's going in, clicks through, Outer zone 2, solid. Outer zone 3, solid. Definitely misses the judge's wall, right? But yet again, he should be at a major advantage at this point. Comes through, hits the inner box, perfect. Pulls a 3 or 4 car gap on Tuerck. Tuerck kind of gets a little hung up, falls back. This is 1,000% a no-brainer going to Sorenson, like with zero hesitation. Tuerck in his lead run, stuffed the car, straightened out, fell off. Sorenson was present. In Sorensen's lead run, he put the car in all the right spots except for 1 zone out of 7. Still got the bumper into the box, but didn't exactly get the tire into the box. Everything else is great. Pulled a small gap at the end. Cut and dry. How in the world was this one more time? Across the board. All 3 judges. One more time. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I mean, even halfway through the course, Ryan throws a little extra angle going into turn 2. You see him kind of fall into the smoke, fall back a little bit. He kind of blows the inner clip a little bit at the end and gets gapped by Sorensen at the end. And like I said, this is, once again, please understand, I'm not faulting any driver themselves personally. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. I make mistakes. I blow my runs every once in a while. So does everybody else. It's a matter of how these calls are not consistent with each other and how I'm seeing one more time in a scenario that clearly did not deserve one. And so now for the last run we're going to talk about, of course, we'll talk about my run. So I'm up against Dylan Hughes. I'm out in front, throw the car. I miss the inner first box a little bit and I touch outer zone 2, the second major wall, just a little bit. In my opinion, I did not bury to the tire. It was just over a slight graze, but it did not disrupt the car, in my opinion. As I go to transition off of that, Dylan was very much in the way. I bump into him, and luckily I was able to, grasp up the car and drive away from the corner and not stuff the car into the wall like Shanahan did. Very, very similar scenario, transitioning into the most dangerous part of the course, bouncing off of a car that then pushes me down the track because I can't transition the way I want to. There's a car there, I get away from him, and now I'm 10 feet down the track. Yet again, in my opinion, it's like, okay, clearly he intruded on the lead driver, impeded on the lead driver, and I'm getting ready to go back around. We did not call the 5. We didn't go ask for contact. It's like, yeah, we're good, heads up, ready to go again. Launching out, second run, chasing Dylan. Feel like we have a bit of an advantage. Enter in with him, decent. Within a car gap, decent. Dylan does a good job filling that zone. Decent job filling the second zone. We are very present. We're a little inside there, like we're not all the way into the zone. Like I get that. And then we come in, have a little almost contact into the zone for the final turn. I can sit here and say, oh, it should be one more time. But like my biggest bit is that the impediment on the lead driver, right? And so I felt that heavily affected my lead run. As we all know, lead driver has the right of way. I went up to the judges stand and I asked, what the problem was. And they said that, because I touched that wall, so I touched that wall, I was transitioning too soon. But I watched drivers touch that wall all weekend long. And yes, I get it. Some of the drivers are really dragging it out and snapping at the last second because that helps with the Wally score. But on the same hand, when you're in the tandem spot, I've seen many drivers tap that wall and like kind of, hit it and bounce right off of it because they want us right on that wall. So that's the idea. Get right up on there. If you touch it, you're obviously going to then rotate off of it. But the judges felt that I rotated too soon, and that's why Dylan hit me. And so my struggle is that as a lead driver, you should have the right of way. Even if you start to transition early, you shouldn't have a car that's completely on the inside of you because we are constantly reacting to the lead driver, right? And so the lead driver is always not perfect, right? There's very, very few times that the lead driver is doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And so as a chase driver, you're trying to be up in there. But in the end, when they are starting to make a move, you have to move out of their way. And so for this to just go like 100% across to Dylan was super annoying to me, because I really felt like that should have been us or one more time at best, especially after watching the Ryan Tuerck run when he completely smokes a wall, straightens his car out, and gets a one more time. Or then with the Conor thing, when Gushi's on the inside and he goes to transition and cannot perform that and smacks the wall, and then they gave him the advantage, right, the lead driver, but then he couldn't get his car fixed, and then Gushi ran, and they did the rerun because they knew they messed up and they shouldn't have done it that way. So this is what I'm talking about, the inconsistencies on the different runs. There are much more than 3 runs that happened at Foreman Drift Long Beach, but those are the top 3 that stood out to me. And I feel like I have a little bit of credibility when it comes to how drifting should be judged. I have judged drifting for 23 years. My first event I've ever judged was in 2003. I have sat side by side with one of the current judges, Brian Eggert, and judged events with him for many years. So I have done this over and over again, and I feel like I have a little bit of awareness on what is appropriate versus what is not. Rules are always changing. The collision aspects, the timing on when you can fix your car and whatever, all of that is very variable. And so that is what we are trying to clean up, let's say, because this one didn't add up. And to top all that off, all the drivers get a memo from Formo Drift basically saying that you are no longer permitted to go up and ask of the judges what happened and why they made a call. We used to have protests, now we don't. Then we used to have the ability to ask the judges for explanations, and now we don't. So long story short, now there's a memorandum that basically states that if you have a problem with any of the judgment calls, you basically just have to put a pin in it and talk to them later. So that's a little frustrating as well. But in the end, we'll just go out there and burn another set of tires and see what happens.